It's year one after Empire. In an age where virtue is mocked and violence is streamed, the only crime now is saying it out loud. This is Millennial AE, Year 1, Week 3. They own your words. We are well into Week 3 of our new calendar, and I've been stewing about what afflictions are most damaging to our country. We have so many consecutive dumpster fires raging that I'm spoiled for choice. To help narrow things down, I decided to kick up a few arguments on Facebook to get the blood flowing to the section of my brain labeled indignant rage. To my great surprise, the answer to my dilemma came from one of the mindless Gen Z zombies that responded to me. Well, it didn't really come from him, per se, more through him. While I took the requisite 15 minutes to try and decipher his youthful hieroglyphics of emojis and misspelled words, I saw it. He said, quote, "Grape is the worst crime you can commit," end quote. I fixed his spelling for him. There are two problems with this. First, grape is not the worst flavor. Artificial bubblegum is irredeemable. Second, this is a cowardly stand-in word for rape. You may have seen this phenomenon sweeping social media. Tons of stand-in words have been floating around. Grape, corn, and unalive are some of the most common offenders, referring, of course, to rape, porn, and murder or suicide, respectively. This is being dubbed algo speak, and I've heard journalists and, quote, researchers claim that other terms are used as stand-ins for child pornographic material, but this seems like a major deviation in what's happening. In one case, people are using alternative language to not arouse suspicion about illegal activities. This is speaking in code, where only a select few are supposed to know what you're really saying. On the other hand, you have people censoring themselves because they are not allowed to say the other words or phrases, and it is intended that everyone will know what you're really saying. Frankly, I despise this whole trend. Beyond it being another step along the way to absolute primate-level communication regression, it is a dangerous social habit. That may sound extreme, but bear with me. One of the main sectors of philosophical study is epistemology, the study of what we can know. These are the guys who are fascinated by paring down belief systems and finding the things we can actually say with certainty. It should concern you that the list of things we can say with certainty is terrifyingly small, but that's an existential rant for another day. The important thing to take away from this is that two of the most closely related sectors of philosophy are epistemology and linguistic philosophy. In other words, the study of our language is almost inseparable from the study of what we can know or believe. Anyone who knows a second language is aware of this. When you properly learn a second language, you don't translate it in real time. You learn the images and concepts associated with the words first. Then you tie it to what it is called in your original language. Foreign cultures don't just have different words for things. They have different ideas tied to them. Familia may be Spanish for family, but Spanish culture is going to have subtle values and ideas involving that group of related people that won't be one-to-one represented by the English concept of family. To make a very long argument short, changing language inevitably impacts beliefs and values. In the case of stand-in words, eventually the tone of the replacement word will bleed over into the meaning of the original word. Now, I don't actually blame Gen Z or millennials for this. They're trying to keep interacting on platforms that are increasingly happy to impose ever greater censorship. In some cases, this is likely an unfortunate byproduct of companies not wanting their advertisements associated with certain content. Rather than be intellectually honest and curating their platforms in a way that ensures companies are matched with material they agree with, the social media giants have gone slash and burn. Disney doesn't want to appear on a video discussing rape. Just ban the word so there aren't any monetized videos with the word left in the script. Again, If this was just corporate worship bleeding over into the cultural vocabulary, I might not care so much. But I do care, because I think something else is happening. TikTok is one of the biggest offenders of this trend. Almost since the platform's inception, it is common to find people dancing around certain words or phrases to avoid banning or being treated unfavorably by the algorithm. This is very on brand for TikTok, since the company is Chinese. This may sound like a generalization, but the political landscape in China is creating facial recognition software to tie to your social credit score. So I'm not sure calling them fascists is really out of line. Logically, the business design that they have to structure around in-country is going to influence their business philosophy abroad. In other words, TikTok is at least an overly censored byproduct of authoritarian Chinese business culture, and is at worst a concerted effort to spread that influence internationally. If it were just TikTok, the issue wouldn't be so bad, but every major social media platform, including YouTube, followed suit. They are all concerned with what the major advertisers think. And who owns the major advertisers? I bet you're picking up on the trend. AMC Theaters, Legendary Entertainment Group, which made Jurassic World, GE Appliances, Apple, Ford, Blackstone, Morgan Stanley, the Chicago Stock Exchange, Chesapeake Energy, Smithfield Foods, and even Reddit, which is the increasingly liberal ultra-compiler of websites and social media groups, are all owned or significantly exposed to Chinese interests. And the list is much longer than that. In other words, every major sector of your life, from real estate to film and TV, to food production, to energy, to U.S. stock investment, to automotives, is not just reliant on Chinese materials. They're largely owned by them. So when American platforms are bowing to corporate interests, they're bowing to the Chinese. This accounts for the political and economic threat from this language trend, but there's a reason to fear for our values as well. Remember when I said that the tone of the replacement words would slowly infect the original ones? Well, what do rape, pornography, murder, and suicide have in common? They're some of the biggest social destabilizers. What happens when you aren't allowed to say someone committed suicide? It sanitizes the whole thing. Hearing someone unalived themselves doesn't really capture the significance of a parent having to cut their child down after they hang themselves from a ceiling fan, does it? This social deadening is happening on nearly all levels, like we saw over the last few weeks. Doesn't make you feel so bad if you unalive someone in front of their wife and kids, I guess. Heck, some people might even cheer it on. Maybe this is all just a big unfortunate fallout from companies seeking profit. Or maybe there's a country that has a history of cultural and technological subterfuge and warfare that deems us a threat. Who knows? But it seems awfully convenient for our biggest competitor on the global stage if we crumble from the inside at a just slightly faster rate than they do. Regardless, there's only one thing you can do about this. Resist. Talk. Speak in a forthright manner. Don't give in to your overlords, and make no mistake, they are your overlords. It is easier to simply disincentivize free speech than it is to legally forbid it. The government learned this well when they decided to subsidize us breaking apart our own families rather than having to brute force us into subservience. Say the truth online. If they ban you, say it in person. Don't let America become Britain, where up to 30 people a day are arrested for comments online. Watching our cousins overseas is like watching a slow-motion train wreck while riding on a different, marginally slower train wreck. I'll keep up the good fight on my end. In the meantime, just in case this is ever seen by Xi Jinping or, God forbid, a Clinton, I feel I should clarify, I will never unalive myself. You've been listening to Millennial AE, Year 1, Week 3. As America twists into its new sad form, we remain and we resist. See you next Wednesday.